3, 2, 1, we're going. I'm Gary Peter Carlson from my checkyoursoul.com with John of Light. We're going to do a video about the leadership of the top 50 countries and a few notables. Take it away, John.
Yeah, cool. I'm John of the Light, and Gary and I wanted to get this out as quickly as possible. Gary's been working on this for a couple of days now, and we've done some samples, right? If anybody is following your channel, and I don't know how many people that is, but if anyone's following your channel, they know we've taken a sampling. We did the Supreme Court. We did the leadership in the House and the Senate, and most of the leadership in the Trump administration and his cabinet. And it seemed just logical to, next look at who's in power around the world. And this first tranche, or whatever you want to call it, this first sample is the top 50 nations by population. And then there's an additional 15 nations that are, quite notable. They just don't have as large of a population. So this video is going to talk about essentially 65 nations, the 50 largest, and 15 additional. Maybe before we get into it, Gary, what do you want to say about either just this video in general or the process that you did to work on this? What did you do to the country and the top reading like a soul work?
I don't know, you just went in and out there on the video somehow.
I'm not sure how, but you want to describe what you did?
Yeah, John made a list of the leadership of the top 50 countries, and I doused what kind of soul each leader had. And then we double checked everything to see if there's any discrepancies. I actually did it twice, and we compared the results. And when there was a discrepancy, we went over and checked it until we got an answer of what it was. And surprisingly, there's not one human involved in the leadership of the top 50 countries.
Unbelievable.
But there is 4 different types of reptilian souls. In the West, South America, and Africa is dominated by draconians and lizards. The Far East is dominated by dragon souls. And the Middle East is dominated by snake souls. The rest of the world is a mixture of draconian and lizards. The smaller countries have lizard souls, and the larger countries have both draconian and lizard souls, usually with draconians in charge. All right, I'll show you the list now.
Before we get into it, I think we should talk a little bit more. Do you want to say what it is that Gary has been trying to do for 15 years now is inform the world. He's been trying to alert Earth and humanity that there's a large group of people on our planet that look human, but they are not human. They have human bodies, but they have reptilian souls. And we've talked about this over and over again ad nauseum in previous videos. But, Gary is probably one of the world's top researchers in the world of the spirituality. He's one of the world's experts in souls and soul readings. If you don't know Gary, you should go to his website, icheckyoursoul.com. Gary, if you scroll up just a little bit, they can see sort of the banner, I check your soul. The pen is mightier than the sword. What does Gary say? The pendulum is mightier than the nuclear bomb. Well,
and when I thought of that, the spirits were telling me that they were so excited to hear that phrase that they told other people in other galaxies about it. They were telling me that I got to be known in other galaxies by making that up. The pendulum is mightier than the nuclear bomb, and I believe it's true. You can get so much information and change things by dowsing that it certainly affects the world more than the nuclear bombs do.
well, so
yeah, I started out. I started out with the Soul Score. I opened my website because I could find out if somebody was polarized positive to make ascension. Quickly invented the Soul Score, and then I invented the Soul Report, and I was doing them for free until too many people wanted one, and I had to charge. And I was getting these people that came up where they didn't have a soul or something like that. And I was confused about it. And basically the difference is they didn't have empathy like us. They have souls, but God makes half the souls without empathy. There's 18 lines of DNA, and every living thing must have a soul. And 9 of the 18 get a soul with empathy, and 9 of the 18 get a soul without empathy. And we're mammal people, and we have empathy. And the people that have came to take over, they grew human clones and put their soul in the clones, and they're reptilian people. And reptilians are on the side that don't have empathy, which means they can kill, hurt, or anybody they want. They don't care, it doesn't bother them who they hurt or kill. They just want to own and control everything and take over the planet. And slowly I figured out that they had reptilian souls, and then I went on a mission to try to tell everybody what's going on, that these people ruling us, they got human bodies, human DNA, just like us. But their soul's different. They have their reptilian soul, and they work together to control Earth. And they guide in all the positions of power and create money creation and running the medical and the religions and the top corporations and police forces and militaries, everything.
Well, and Gary, today's video is proof, if you want to call it that they've taken over all governments of Earth, basically. We didn't do them all. We did 65. We did the 50 largest. We did 65 nations, different countries on Earth. And what this sample proves is exactly that your research is correct, that these reptilians who have taken over our planet and are in control of almost everything on the planet also are in control of every government. And what you said at the front end of the video is that you didn't find one human in one major leadership position in any of the 65 countries that you dowsed.
And I was surprised that there were 0 humans. I thought there would be a few, but anyway, let's take a look at the list here. Right now, I guess India overtook China for the highest population. China's losing a lot of people. I think it's due to the jab or something like that. The people are making videos. They're going in the major cities. Where's all the people? I don't know exactly what's going on there, but that caused India to take over to be the highest populated country. And you can see the letters on top, what they mean, and it's to the right of each country or each person. I put a letter for the country, what kind of soul people are controlling the country. And then I took the major leaders of that country. Some countries have one major leader, some have two or three or something like that, as you'll see on the list. And some countries are mixed in the different kind of souls, but most of them just have one kind. You can start with India here, which is in the Middle East, and I was saying that snake souls dominate the Middle East. And you can see India is controlled by people that have snake souls, and their two leaders have a snake soul. And then as you see, G stands for dragon. There's two D. There's dragon begins with D, and we already did D for draconian, so I picked G for dragons. And you can see China is in the Far East, and that country's controlled by dragon souls, and the top two people in the leadership have dragon souls. United States is mixed. The draconians are in control of United States and a lot of the major countries in the West. But they got a president in this time with a lizard soul. We've had a few other presidents that have had lizard souls. One notable one would be Nixon and Ford, both had lizard souls. And so
Draconian?
They have a different, the draconians are by far the evilest. I showed a scale here before on how evil they are. I'll go back to that scale for just a brief moment. And you can see the websites pop up for some reason. Here's a list of how evil they are. It goes from 1 to 100. And if they don't have empathy, the higher the number, the more evil they are. And 12 is neutral. So a number below 12 would mean the race is positive. And otherwise, the higher the number, the more evil the group is. Draconians are 98, about as evil as you can be. And the lizards are 56, the lowest of the 4 reptilian groups. And then you can see another group on Earth that doesn't have empathy, the ant people. They have a number below 12, so they're actually positive. They helped the Hopi during the Great Floods and probably did some other good things on Earth, and they're a positive group. And you can see the snakes and the dragons are a little more evil than the lizards, but they're far less than the draconians. All right, let's go back to the page on that we were showing before.
Why don't you quickly go through like the 50
Okay,
and
right.
Scroll slowly through it, and you want to just talk about it quickly?
Yeah. Indonesia is in the Far East. They have controlled by the dragon souls, and their leader has a dragon soul. Pakistan's in the Middle East, so they have snake souls, the country and their top leader. They have 2 top leaders, a president and a prime minister, both with snake souls. Nigeria is in Africa. Africa is kind of mixed with the lizards and the draconians. Nigeria is draconian, so their country's controlled by them, plus their top leader. And now switching over to South America is a mix between lizards and draconians. The lizards kind of control the country, but they currently got a leader in with a draconian soul. And there's big thing about him still in the election. There's been a lot of protests and stuff about it. Another guy thought he won that had a lizard soul, but so far this guy has been able to retain power. Bangladesh, a Middle East country, in the far end of the Middle East. They got snake souls control it with their leader, and they got one leader that has a lizard soul. Lizards are kind of all over the place, but mostly the Americas and Africa, and northern Middle Asia too. So Russia is number 9. They're controlled by the lizards. Ethiopia, African country, is controlled by the lizards, and they have one of their leaders as a draconian soul. Mexico, one of the Americas countries, they're controlled by the lizards, and their leader, very unusual, they got a Jewish leader with a lizard soul. Over 90% of the Jews have draconian souls, but a few have lizard souls. Japan in the Far East is controlled by the dragons, but they got one of their leaders as a draconian soul. Egypt is a very strange combination. They're in Middle East, considered one of the Middle East countries, and they're actually controlled by draconians. But they got a lizard president and a prime minister that has a snake soul. So they got all 3 going there. I don't know how they get along with 3 different agendas there, but they got so many tourists there, and with the pyramids and all the attractions and everything, there's a lot of things going on from different direction there, and that maybe have something to do with these 3 different kind of souls being involved. Philippines in the Far East, controlled by the dragons, and their leader has a dragon soul. And Dominican Republic, Congo, an African country, controlled by the lizards, and their leader has a lizard. Vietnam is a Far East country, and they got a strange group there. They're controlled by the dragons. One of their leaders has a dragon soul, another leader has a lizard soul, and the prime minister has a draconian soul, which is a little strange with 3 different guides in that one. Iran is Middle East, and snakes control that country. Turkey is like part of it's in Europe and part of it's in Asia, the Middle East, and they're controlled by the lizards. Control southern Europe and all over. Europe is mostly controlled by the draconians, but southern Europe is controlled by the lizards. And since they're also in the Middle East, they got a snake soul leader. Germany, as you see, is a solid European country, totally controlled by the draconians. Thailand is a Far East country, controlled by the dragons. United Kingdom, another European country, dominated by the draconians. Tanzania, African country, controlled by the lizards, and they got one leader lizard and one draconian. France is a Middle European country, controlled by the draconians, but they got one of their leaders has a lizard soul, and one has a draconian. South Africa has both, controlled by the draconians, and they got a lizard leader currently. Italy is a southern European country, controlled by the lizards, a lizard leader and a draconian leader. Kenya, Northern African country, is controlled by the Draconians, but currently has a lizard leader. Myanmar, I don't know how to exactly say it, is Far East to Middle East country, but I guess it's more considered in the Far East, and they are controlled by the dragons. Colombia, South American country, controlled by the Draconians. South Korea, Far East country, controlled by the dragons. Sudan, African country, controlled by the lizards. Uganda is controlled by the lizards, and they got one draconian leader. Spain is a Southern European, controlled by the lizards, with one lizard leader and one draconian leader. Algeria is considered in the Middle East with the Arabs or whatever, and they got snakes controlling that country, and with one lizard leader and one snake leader. Iraq is in the Middle East and dominated by the snakes. Argentina, a South American country, controlled by the lizards.
Right.
Afghanistan is kind of considered Middle East, and they're controlled by the snakes, as most of them are. Yemen's another one. It's controlled by the snakes, but they got one draconian leader, one snake leader. Canada, North American country, our northern neighbor, is totally controlled by the draconians. All their people in power are draconian. They're a real leftist country, as you may have heard on the news, all the stuff they're doing and against the people. Poland, a European country, controlled by the draconians, with one lizard leader and one draconian leader. Morocco is considered a Middle Eastern country, controlled by the snakes, but they got a draconian leader and a snake leader. Angola, African, controlled by draconians. Ukraine, a northern European country, is controlled by the draconians. You can see that they're controlled by the draconians, and they're super evil, and they're fighting with Russia, that's controlled by the lizards. And as you can guess, they don't want to quit the war. They want to just keep fighting Russia. They won't go for peace because the draconians are so evil. They got that Azov battalion that's all draconians that are forcing them to keep the war going, and the hatred for Russia. There's a story goes back to the Holodomor, where they were protesting against Stalin and Russia when they were part of the Soviet Union. And so Stalin went there and took all the grain out of the country and starved over 1 million people over the winter in the 1930s. So they developed this deep hatred for Russia, which is still extends into the day, and that's part of the war keeps going because of that a little bit. There's a long story there. Uzbekistan is kind of in the Middle East, and they're controlled by the snakes. Malaysia, a Far East country, controlled by the dragons, but they do have one draconian leader. Mozambique, African, controlled by the draconians, but they got 2 lizards in power right now. Ghana, African, controlled by the draconians. Peru, South American, controlled by the lizards. Saudi Arabia, a solid Middle East country, totally controlled by the snakes. Madagascar, Africa, controlled by the draconians, with a lizard in power, one lizard in power, one draconian in power. Ivory Coast is controlled by the draconians, but they elected two lizards. The lizards are probably trying to take power in that country, but they're not able to yet. The draconians probably still control it. They probably got their people in the top jobs and all that, even though lizards got elected. And then we got some notable countries here. Venezuela, it's a lizard country, but they got this draconian in power, and they're having a lot of problems there with the economy, and the people are really in peril there because of this draconian leader and his agenda, following the other draconians, which is total control. Australia is a Western country and totally dominated by the draconians. As you can see, they got 4 draconians in power. North Korea, Far East, controlled by the dragons. Taiwan, another one controlled by the dragons, the Far East. Chile, South America, controlled by the lizards. Netherlands, another evil European country that's totally dominated by the draconians. Ecuador, controlled by the draconians. They got a lizard in power. Cambodia, a Far East country, totally dominated by the dragons, with their 4 people in power, all have or 3 people in power, all have dragon souls. Belgium, another European country dominated by the draconians. UAE, a Middle East country dominated by the snakes. Portugal, a Southern European controlled by the lizards, and they got 1 draconian leader. Sweden, Northern Europe, which is dominated by the draconians, as Sweden is. Now, Greece is a Southern European country, and that's where the lizards are more in power in Southern Europe, and they control Greece. And you got Israel, which is totally draconian. As I said, over 90% of the Jews are draconian. And I think the Jewish people are maybe as many as 5% of the Jews have a reptilian soul. It could be that high. It's at least 2 or 3%. I'm not exactly sure of their total population. But of the 4 million people with reptilian souls controlling the world, I'm told that 30% of them are Jewish. So that equals 1.2 million Jews. And the three biggest countries with Jewish populations are Israel, United States, and France. And there's other European countries with a lot of Jews as well.
Right.
And they're dominated by the draconians. And then you got Switzerland, which is what do you call it? Illuminati country or whatever. They got a lot of secret crap going on, dominated by the draconians. Go ahead, John.
I guess I have a lot of questions to ask you, and I'm thinking that maybe some of these questions are being asked by viewers watching this video. What's the significance of this to you? You've been researching this for 10 or 15 years. You've known about this for quite some time. You've done a list like this before in the past, but this brings us to today. This is the 2025 current leadership around the world in the largest 50 countries and 15 other very significant countries. What's the significance of this discovery to you that there's not one human amongst any of the leadership in any of these countries, and they're all dominated by reptilians? What's the significance?
The reptilians are taking more and more power and dominating the humans and taking more and more control and trying to oppress the humans more and more. There's a lot of humans awaking due to the internet and the oppression they're receiving. So they're starting to fight back, but the reptilians have put themselves in more power positions as much as they can. You know, they're not just in the leadership of all these countries. They got a reptilian ahead of every police force, and they're
Corporation.
Yeah, they're running the medical all over the country. In a lot of countries, they're dominating
companies, the banks.
Yeah, the banks, the corporations. All the big stores like Home Depot and Walmart and Lowe's and
Sure.
Kmart and
Amazon
Starbucks and McDonald's and all them large countries. All them large businesses are totally owned and run by the draconians, basically, and some other reptilians too.
Let me ask you a few more questions, Gary. People watching this video, and you and I would be thankful for anybody to find this video and watch it. Anybody watching this video right now is probably asking the question, why does this matter to humanity? What for most of us, we're human. Almost everyone on Earth has a human soul, with very little exception, right? There's only a few million, right, reptilian souled people on planet Earth. What's the significance to humanity that every country has been taken over by reptilian souled beings?
Well, we need to expose them, which is what I'm trying to do, so we can take them out of power. They've corrupted all the voting. They forced in these voting machines that allow them to cheat all the elections, and there's people trying to fight back to stop it, but since they control the government, they won't allow them to take the voting machines out and other things, and they create the money and make the call where the money goes. Have you seen Elon Musk in this Department of Government Efficiency? He's found all this fraud and corruption on USA Aid.
Yeah.
Which is about what does it stand for? Something to do with where the money goes internationally or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's found all kinds of corruption and fraud there, and he's trying to stop it. He's trying to take it out where they can't spend it that way, and then he got judges making decisions to stop it and trying to take him out of power. There's a big fight with Trump over stopping the corruption.
Well, Trump
wants to send all the illegal criminals back out of the country, and some judge made a ruling that he can't, and they released all the criminals back. There's all kinds of power plays going on back and forth between Trump, a lizard, and draconians that control the country. Go ahead, John.
So how about this question? Does this sample, who's in power in 2025, does this sample not prove that humanity has been taken over by people with reptilian souls? Does it not prove that?
I think it does. I mean, we might have them. We got them outnumbered like 1,700 to 1 or 2,000 to 1. But they're in power and in control. And the only reason they got it this way is because they're disguised as us, and the rest of the humans don't know what's going on.
People don't understand.
I'm trying to tell them. I'm trying to put it out, but people don't want to listen to me. I wrote everybody or all kinds of people that have a presence on the internet about what's going on, and they just ignore me. They don't want to repeat my stuff. I says, well, if I tell people this, they'll think I'm crazy. Or if I tell people this, I'll lose subscribers. And
all right, so
and most people just I send them an email and explain it, and they just ignore it.
For anyone listening, what is your primary message right now to humanity using this information as a good sampling? What is your message to anybody watching right now? What do you want them to know?
Tell everybody you know what's going on. Tell everybody to look at this list, to read some on my website. You can get a free mini soul reading for yourself if you send me an email also, and find out where you're at spiritually. I'm trying to help humanity as much as I can, and I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not getting anywhere very fast, but I'm hoping that it'll change.
So the bottom line,
everybody can get to know what's going on and tell other people.
So the bottom line, Gary, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you and I have known each other for a really long time. You've been trying to inform humanity that humanity has been taken over by extraterrestrials, essentially. That the planet has been taken over by extraterrestrials. They found a way through advanced ET technology to put their souls into clones and then procreate their souls into humanity. They've been doing it for thousands of years, and now there are millions of them. There are over 4, maybe 5 million human-looking people with reptilian souls on Earth, and they're now running everything. They've taken over every country, every company. They run the planet now.
Exactly, and nobody understands it. They see all this. They see the leadership is full of evil, and they think that, well, that's just how it goes. Evil people are corrupt. But it's not true. Evil people aren't just corrupt. They're corrupt when they got a reptilian soul. When they got a human soul, they're not so corrupt. If we can tell everybody what's going on, we can change it. We can get these people out of power, and we can stop their control of the planet.
The researchers, Gary, that you talk to that really try to stay away from your spiritual information, they know the world is corrupt. They know that there's this sort of, evil worshiping satanic cult that runs the world. They know this. They know that they're evil.
They know about the Illuminati, but they don't want to accept that they got reptilian souls, like I tell them.
So they know that
I don't know why. They can see that they're all evil. They all work together. They're different than us. And the difference is they don't have a human soul. They got a reptilian soul. I don't know why these other people can't look at my information and say, that makes sense. He's probably right. That's what's going on. I should tell other people about it and get everybody to know what's happening here, and we can change it.
Well, you wanted to get this information out. I wanted to get this information out quick. I think together We've just put this out on the internet for the world to see. And I wonder if you have any sort of final thoughts before we log off here.
Just tell other people and explain it, you know. All the people in power are evil, and the reason is because they're not human. They got reptilian souls that don't have empathy, and that's what we're facing, and we need to expose them, and you can help.
All right, so if anyone out there has questions or comments, we encourage you to put them into the comment section below the video. If you want to get a hold of Gary, you should start by going to his website, icheckyoursoul.com. There's a way for you to email him through the website.
And there's a phone number too.
Right. But, you know, if you've got a number of questions and a number of thoughts, you might put them into an email and send him an email, or put some questions or comments underneath this video. This information is hard to take, and I'm trying
in YouTube.
I'm trying to empathize with the viewer right now. This information is not easy to swallow. This is complicated. It's outside of the box. We've not been taught this. There's no one else you can really call. There's no one else you can really get a hold of to try to talk about this information with them. Gary is one of the leading experts in the world on soul and spiritual research. So if you really want to learn more, I encourage you to reach out to Gary and contact him through his website, icheckyoursoul.com.
All right, thank you. We'll end with that.
All right, love and light, Gary.
Thanks for watching.